Welcome to the show, folks. I am your host, Maximo, the voice of the culture, and we're here at VOD Pod Media, getting excited on a Tuesday. I was thinking, it's not necessarily a Taco Tuesday, because tacos are good every day. And maybe it's a Talk About It Tuesday. I don't know just yet, but we are finding out, experimenting in the waters here on Tuesday night. Our show is 20 episodes deep on Wednesday. I was Mr. Wednesday Night, but now we are taking over Tuesdays with my man Gylan Jackson here at VOD Pod Media. We hope wherever you are watching from, you are having a fabulous night. It's a beautiful night to have a beautiful night. And so I hope you're doing well, positive energy, great vibes, eucalyptus and lemon all everywhere. And so I hope you're doing well. And I'm excited because we have a special guest who is 1 week out from a runoff to be elected to one of the most powerful positions in the county, wherever you may be. Now, it's interesting because I don't know everything about politics. I don't have a degree in political science, but I know enough to know that Bexar County Judge it's a huge position.
Important position.
Important position. And we're going to get into a little bit more with State Representative Ina, don't call me Ina Minjarez. Welcome to VOD Media. How are you this evening?
I'm wonderful, Maximo. Thank you for having me. It's a beautiful evening, hot as heck outside, but good to be indoors with the air conditioning.
It is hot out there, so we hope you're staying warm and hydrated, sunblock, all of those things. And so welcome in, Ina. And I've got to say thank you for taking time out of the campaign trail to come on in here, talk to us and give us all the good news, all the bad news, all the indifferent news, and let us know how it's been. Now, beyond all of the political stuff, you know, for our guests and our viewers who don't know you, who are you? Like, could you describe yourself in a couple of words or less on who you are, maybe on a personal level?
You know, on a personal level, I think this would surprise people. I'm very introverted. Believe it or not.
I can believe that.
You know, I am a public servant. I've got to be out. I've got to be talking to people. But at the end of the day, I'm a pretty introverted girl. I love to just be home watching my Netflix and my Paramount and my streaming services. And just spending time with my family and love working out at Orange Theory when I've had the opportunity. Now with being on the campaign trail, I just haven't been able to get to it. So I feel a little unbalanced in life right now because I haven't had time to work out. But really, I'm just very laid back. I love to just be home and, you know, watching my movies and just catching up on alone time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into a little bit of those fun questions about like your, what is the last show you binged watched and what do you do for your me time in a little bit. But, you know, let's get into it. You know, I understand you're from El Paso, Texas, right on the border. What was it like growing up out there to two hardworking parents right on the border, right? I mean, your culture had to have been paramount to you, you know. Can you tell me a little bit about your upbringing there?
So when you say my being born and raised on the border, my home is just literally a few feet from the border. I can see, you know, I remember being young and when there was just the riverbank of the Rio Grande.
Yeah.
And now, of course, they've been building the high fences there, but at a time, you know, I loved it. Snowing, when there would snow in El Paso, because we get snow, I remember my mom used to work at Luby's back in the day, and so she would bring the trays home, and we would use the trays as sleds when we were little, down the little riverbanks, right? But the culture is beautiful. The people are beautiful. My family, my parents are still there. You know, we have a wonderful relationship with Juarez, Mexico. It's a beautiful town with beautiful people, and I'm very proud to be from it. I miss it. It's a beautiful place to raise a family as well, but it's a place where you can be proud of your roots. You can be proud of speaking Spanish. You can be proud of really, you know, making your home there and your home life and raising a family. And it's just a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, so shout out to everybody from El Paso. Shout out to everybody wherever you may be watching this. Like we said, go ahead and drop us a comment wherever you're at. Let us know where you're watching. We know we've got viewers in San Antonio. We got viewers in Michigan. We have viewers across the seas. We want to know where you're calling in from, where you're watching from. We appreciate your support here on the Vodcast. Big shout out to Gylan Jackson, who's making everything happen, who's made this beautiful scene come to fruition here. So I've got to ask you, Ina, What made you want to get involved in like public service? You know, here you are, right? I understand you're in the House, you're in the Texas House, right? House of
Yeah.
Representatives.
It's not like I was, I don't come up from a political family. My parents, my dad was a construction worker. He taught himself how to lay concrete, had a high school degree. My mom, 8th grade education, cafeteria cashier at my local elementary school. I didn't come from this political family like you see a lot of legislators or politicians
Sure.
come from. My thing was I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to eventually maybe be a judge, a sitting judge in terms of holding a gavel and listening to cases. But I will tell you, my mom, even though I wanted to play outside, she would have me watching CNN
Really?
and C-SPAN, and it's going over my head, right? But I remember being really young, and I think it was one summer watching the Iran-Contra hearings and not understanding any of it, but Oliver North and,
Yeah.
it's being small, but she wanted me exposed to what was going on in the world. And so even here I was young and I knew like who the politicians were, but I never thought I would go into politics. And I think when I got to San Antonio and I got my law degree and I practiced at the DA's office, per the rules of the state bar, if you've served 5 years, you can be a judge. So, if you want to be a sitting judge on a bench, you've got to run for it. You've got to pick a party and you've got to run. So I did that in 2006 was my first run. Had no idea what the heck you do in politics. I was so green. But I lost by like 0.7% on that race against like a 20-year incumbent. And then ran again in 2010, but that was the year that Obama was president. I'm a Democrat. The red wave came and took out all the Democrats in Bexar County, and I thought, okay, this isn't for me. I don't, my dream was to be a judge. It's not meant to be. And then, it's amazing how doors open, and a door opened for me in 2015 to run for an open seat for the state rep position in 124. And look, I had to look at something was telling me, hey, look into it. I couldn't remember my Texas civics, but I knew as an attorney, I've represented children and businesses and victims of crime, and I'm a debater. I've litigated in the courts, and so why can't I do that at the Capitol and debate bills and write the law, right? And if there's a possible bad law, changing it or getting rid of it. And so I knew I had the skill set, and I took a leap of faith, did it one more time, and won in 2015.
Congratulations. No easy task.
Not easy.
Right? And so what's like, just randomly, for someone who doesn't know, I don't really know, what's the state of Texas politics?
Well, it's funny. State of Texas politics, a lot of it is local. It's kind of like what's going on locally. What are the internal politics of the local parties? There is, I look at it as the old guard of the party, people that have been around for a long time that have put a lot of their sweat equity and their blood and their tears into the party. And a lot of times it's very hard to break into that. But you come in, you decide to run, and it's meeting people, and it's trying to sell yourself. You're branding yourself. You're giving your ideas. The hardest thing I had to overcome, my last name isn't the easiest to pronounce. Yeah. My first name isn't the easiest either. But it's name ID, and it's figuring out, okay, how do I sell my name? How do I sell who I am? My ideas. You really are a brand, and it takes, it's a science. It's raising money. It's figuring out strategy. It's touching voters in an effective way and trying to just win your race.
Yeah, this is the third time today I've heard the word brand.
Yeah.
And your brand and how important it is to you if you want to be a leader, if you want to be recognized, if you want to get to the next level. And there are certainly levels to this work, right? And so, just like anything else, what have you learned during your time in the House?
I loved my time at the House. But I came in at a time where the speaker, so the leader of the House was Joe Strauss, who was from San Antonio. So I came in at a time where I was the new kid. I was the new kid of the Bexar County delegation, which he was a member of. And he gave me a lot of opportunity. And I took his advice, and there were other members that I listened to. And they would tell me, watch, listen, ask questions, but kind of learn the process. And that's what I did. I learned the process and I watched how people got things done. I think that's one of the biggest assets I have, is that I listen and I observe a lot. And so by doing that, that's how I learned my skill, my craft of the importance of working relationships, the importance of knowing what representative, what they were strong in on a certain subject, and how I could use them on a particular bill I had to help me get it over the finish line. So it's like Game of Thrones. I always talk about the House being the Game of Thrones. You have different cliques, different families. Sometimes you love each other, sometimes you hate each other. It's working strategy, being smart about it, and the value of relationships is everything in the state house to get things done.
Yeah, because I mean, when you talk about getting things done, I mean, I've read a little bit about your profile and your history. You talk a lot about working with others, working across the aisle, compromise, things of that nature. I mean, that's necessary, right? In order to get things done, you have to give, you have to take, you have to push, you have to pull.
Right.
I mean, it seems like when people are running for a position, they're like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then I don't know what happens when they get in office.
They get into reality. They see it's a process, and the process isn't designed to be easy, right? And so, you want to make promises. I think you have a good heart and you want to promise the world, but when you really get into the institutions, you see that they're not created. It's basically made so it's hard to get things done. I'm one of 150 state reps, so I've got to sell my idea to them and then get it over to the Senate side and get 31 senators to buy into my idea, and then get it to the governor's desk. And I could do all that work, and if the governor hates my bill, he can veto it and kill it. I mean, there's so many there's a lot of times where your bill can die, and it's a hard process. So you've got to know how to work the system. You've got to know how to have key relationships. You have to know when to say, I need help. How can you help me get this done? Okay, if you don't like something, tell me how we can change it without weakening my belief or my belief system. So it's a great place to be. I learned a lot. I learned so much, but the relationships are what's so key to me there.
Yeah, that sounds like a careful line to straddle.
Yeah.
Who you're making friends with, who you're not making friends with. Often I hear from people about how, cutthroat and ugly the world of politics can be. And I think we were chatting a little bit prior to this, and I've just wondered, why does it got to be that way? I like to promote positivity. There's a lot of ugliness. There's a lot of nasty negativity out there in the world already. It's interesting. I'm helping plan a conference and a leadership sort of summit for young, youth and young boys. And one of the things I want to talk about is just positivity. Positivity. How do we encourage people? How do we, lift people up rather than tear people down? But the reality of it in the world is there's a lot of people that just want to tear things down.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you come in to a system where there are people that have ideas and they want to promote solutions. You have other people who feel, I hate the institution and I just want to tear it down. You have people that they have a good heart about things. You have people, they're just there for gain. So you have so many different personalities coming in, right? And but politics is a contact sport. It's a contact sport. I mean, and it's about, you have winners, you have losers, and it's just a different world. I always tell myself, man, I wish I could do a reality show and have a camera at the state legislature every session, because while we are working sometimes into the night, you all have no idea what's going on as you go to bed at night. You all are living your lives. You don't know what we're doing up there, and you don't get to see when the deals are struck.
That's a little startling.
Yeah, or when the fights happen. They've been fights on the House floor.
I saw that. Yeah. I saw someone who's endorsed you, Diego Bernal. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he was separating some people on the floor a couple of years ago, and I said, hey, man, give him an elbow. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. So it's a different world, and sometimes you can get lost in that bubble. Like I said, we're there every other year for 140 days, and that's our life. Like as our families' lives go on and life continues. I mean, our whole focus is policy and budgeting and the world of politics. So we are insulated. It feels like being in Las Vegas when you're insulated in a casino with like oxygen being pumped in the room. That's what it's like. It's a different lifestyle.
Yeah. So in the midst of that sounds chaotic.
Yeah.
right? I mean, you've got to, be of well mind, body, spirit. In the midst of all of that hard work, staying up late, you're probably not sleeping much. People are talking about you in the newspaper, so on and so forth. You decide to run for Bexar County Judge.
Yes.
And so let's start with, why did you decide to run?
Well, I had been asked to think about it. And before I thought, I don't want to do that. And honestly, my mother-in-law had passed away unexpectedly.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I was seeing a change in the house, right? I was seeing a change in Austin where what I loved about the house is no matter what our differences were, we could always work together as a body. We could have our fights, but we could always work together as a body. The Senate, to me, is very polarized. It's a different chamber. I just started seeing now that we were having new leadership come in that I did not feel that we had leadership in the House that really cared to protect its members and the integrity of the House. We were going into culture wars, critical race theory, things to me that weren't important for the state, where we needed to work on issues like, Medicare expansion, Medicaid expansion, real issues that matter, trying to get teachers raises, our education system. The focus was somewhere else on these culture wars. And so I started seeing a breakdown in relationships. And then what finally happened was we had this voter suppression bill. And, it just really caused a lot of division. It was something where the Democratic caucus talked to the speaker and leadership about, look, this bill is problematic, but we want to give some amendments to it. And if you will take those amendments, we're not going to be happy with it, but we'll let it run its course through the courts. We were told that those amendments would be accepted. And then when it came down to it, they didn't abide by their word. And so your word is everything at the Capitol. If you don't stick to your word, the trust is gone. So what ended up happening is we ended up going to Washington, D.C. We said, fine, we're leaving. We're going to go get some help from our federal elected officials. And during that time in D.C., we were there for about 38 days. I really started thinking about how I love policy, but at the end of the day, I'm sacrificing not being with my family. I don't mind doing the work. I don't mind as long as I'm being effective, as I'm producing for my constituents. That was a promise that I made. But I did not want to continue in a place where it was just going to be constant culture war, not getting things done. And so I started questioning if I was going to come back.
Wow.
And so prayed about it a lot. And then Judge Wolf made an announcement that he was going to retire. And I thought, well, heck, I can come home and continue working on the policies that I love, but I could do it at the local level where I'm closer to the people, closer to the community, and can work with colleagues that we can get things done. Imagine I'm in a body with 150 people, all right? We're in a commissioner's court with, there's 5 of us. It's a different level of government. And so I prayed about it, talked with people I respected, had an advisory committee, and then decided that that's the path I was going to take.
Interesting. So, I read as well, correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the conditions to throw your name in the hat for Bexar County Judge was that you would not or could not put your name up for re-election for your House position. Is it 124? 124,
so you can't be on the ballot twice. And so the races were running at the same time. And so, I decided to let it go. And I know people say, well, if you don't win this Bexar County Judge position, you'll still be a state rep, right? You'll still be in the House. And I said, no, I had to make a decision. And this is one that I'm comfortable making. I really am. And I have a lot of faith and just know that, if I don't win this seat, I know I'm going to have other opportunities. I'm still young.
Yeah.
And I have just incredible faith in God, and He's never steered me wrong.
Well, you seem like a confident person.
Yeah, you got to be.
and we asked you earlier, and I want to talk about this. I asked, are you a competitive person? Do you consider yourself to be a competitive person? And without a blink, you said absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am.
And so where do you get this competitive drive from, if you don't mind me asking?
You know what? My mother, she was one that failure is never an option. If one door closes, you find another one. You just don't throw your hands up in the air and give up. You find another path. And I think that's just why I love the House, where I would say, all right, I have a bill, it's failing. Well, then I can find another way to get it passed. So it's just to me, you find another way. You find another way, and you learn from mistakes, you learn from shortcomings, and you grow from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the hardworking moms that put in the time and effort to raise us right.
Yes.
It is no easy job. We had Associate Judge Cruz Shaw on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him, about his mom. He talked a little bit about his mom, and he says, oh yeah, my mom was a 5-foot Latina, and I wasn't messing with her, coming up, and that's how I grew up to be so respectful. I said, yeah, none of us were messing with our moms.
No, never. My dad, when I mentioned he was the breadwinner, so he worked in construction. He would have to lay out the concrete. He had to be out the door by 3 a.m. Wow. We didn't see him until late at night. He'd get back at 10. So she was the one that provided the stability. She provided, the guidance. And we did not mess with mom. I'm in my 40s, and I still don't mess with that woman. I still fear her.
Well, I think that's true for everyone. It's funny. We don't talk about Bruno at the table. We don't mess with our moms, but one entity that likes messing with moms and women and telling women what to do with their bodies is the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Now, I've got to give a shout out to Wanda, one of our faithful viewers, who sent me a DM, and she says, Maximo, what are you saying about Roe v. Wade? She says, you have a platform. You're sitting at the table with important leaders. What do you think about Roe v. Wade? And I take every opportunity I can to say it is a shame that we have a government that wants to make law to regulate someone's body. Now, we're coming off a highly political time of people not being told that they should wear a mask, that they should get a shot, which if you don't want to do that, that's your business. Why can't we have the same thought pattern to someone else about what they want to do with their bodies and reproductive rights?
Right.
Why is that?
It's
What's the thought pattern here?
I wish I could get into their thoughts and understand it, but they make no sense. It's about control. It's just about control. And I always feel, the Handmaid's Tales. To me, it's ridiculous. Back, this it's about a 50-year ruling that basically said women have the right to choose and women have control of their bodies. And now we're going backwards. Women, I know women that have died, no matter what, women are going to seek abortions. And it's about access to safe abortions. And it's the ability for a woman to make a personal choice, whether it's her own choice or with her family. It's a situation where if you have a woman who was raped, a woman who's a victim of incest, this is not an easy decision to make.
Correct.
But it should be a personal decision, and that's what I respect. And now here we are going backwards but it's funny, it's about convenience, where some feel, oh, we don't want government intrusion. The government needs to stay out of our lives, except when it comes to women and their bodies. Exactly. Yeah.
And they find these caveats or exceptions for things like hurting women. And I'm just like, what's going on here? It's interesting, but nonetheless, folks, if you've got an opportunity to, contact, your legislators, get out there and protest, do what you can, run for office on a local, a large scale level so we can help create the change that we want. Now, when you were telling me about your time in the House, you started talking about we're staying up late, we're doing all this work, we can, get this passed here with 100 and some other, representatives. It goes through the Senate. We could potentially sneak it past there, and then the governor could just veto it. I have a lot of people that would say, well, why even try? Why even try? Why even speak up? Why even try to make a difference here as someone like yourself is trying to do? And what do you tell those people?
Well, someone has to care. Someone has to care. And look, this is how I see things. People are busy living their lives. People have kids to raise. People have jobs to be at. People have bills to pay. You've got to have people who care about the community, right? And you've got to care. And the minute, if you think about it, that you become apathetic to things, to me, that's when just society falls apart. It becomes a free-for-all. And so, if you got people that care, that really want to devote their time and their talents to public service, it's a good thing. You can do it in different ways. It doesn't necessarily mean in public office. It could be on boards and commissions. It could be in nonprofits. But I think it's just sometimes people are turned off too.
Yeah.
They're turned off. They get tired of what they hear when politicians behaving badly. They get disappointed when they maybe put their full faith and credit in someone and get them elected, and then they end up being a big disappointment, right? And that happens. And so they feel like, see, this is why I just don't believe that they're really good-natured people out there, when in fact that there are. But you've got to care. You got to care about your community. We live in it, and you just got to invest in where you live.
Yeah.
You want to make it a good place for your kids. You want to make it a good place for your grandparents and for the one that you love.
Yeah.
So
if you've got any questions for the state rep, potential Bexar County Judge, make sure you drop it into the comment section. We're going to be checking the comments, getting your live questions answered right here at VodPod Media. We've got to thank her for coming in, because I understand you've been knocking at doors.
Oh my gosh,
You've been on
so
the
hot.
trail.
It's been so hot. It's like it should just be illegal to hold runoff elections in May. I mean, the weather has been crazy hot, but yeah, I've been knocking almost every day, just pounding the pavement, because I feel, yes, you can have walkers and get help, but the voter wants to hear from the candidate. And I really am about that personal touch. And when you mention the competitive spirit, I'll have my list and go, all right, it's almost 7:00. I can do 4 more doors.
Yeah.
So keep going. But I really truly believe you've got to have that personal touch with the voters. You've got to knock, and it's about field. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, and so one of the reasons we invited you in, out of all of the reasons, one of the reasons in the grab bag is that because I felt you were a competitive person. I asked you earlier if you were competitive. You said, absolutely. I'm a competitive person, and I've grown up playing sports, being competitive, and being out there doing work. I take things personal. I think sometimes you have to. It's not always the best thing.
Right. I
liken that to, I don't know if you watched a couple of years ago, they had the Michael Jordan's documentary on ESPN where it was, what was it, The Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
And he talked about all the times he took things personal. And that's what he needed to get the 6 championships, to get the MVPs, to win, right, at all costs. Now, as you mentioned, during elections, there are winners and losers.
Right.
And one of the things for me that really gets me going, if you want to see me do something, tell me I can't do it. I'm going to say, okay, hold on, wait, watch, bet. Just give me a couple of minutes.
Yes.
One of the reasons we're at this table right here, and the reason we're continuing to do this show, I don't care who, we can have 1 watcher, we could have 0 watchers, we could have 1 million followers watching right now. We're going to continue to do it because people think I can't do it. So I'm going to say, okay, hold on, let me get back to you 100 episodes later. Now, with that being said, I read something that said something along the lines, and correct me if I'm wrong, that people told you that, hey, you weren't supposed to put your name in the hat and run for this position.
Right.
And now, what's going on there?
Maximo, look, when I ran for state rep, it was the same thing. And you're like me, when people say, you don't have what it takes, or you're not going to do this, I'm like, watch me. Watch me. And so I proved him wrong the first time. I mean, it's funny because it just seems to be, I don't know what it is about. It doesn't matter that I attended the University of Notre Dame and have a degree there. It doesn't matter that I'm an attorney and that I had a private practice and I litigated cases. It doesn't matter that I served in the Texas House and, one session, my first session, I was named Rookie of the Year. I've been one of the few legislators that's been successful. You're still going to have people that say, you don't have what it takes and, you're not qualified or not enough.
It seems slanderous.
It is slanderous. But for me, that drives me. And I think, and what I think here, it's just always, look, there's just someone who's anointed that should have that seat. And for me, I just believe there's a political process, there's a democracy, right? And if you want to run for the seat, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people. So if you want to run for it. And so, yeah, I mean, I have been told that I should have asked permission from some of the old timers. I've been told I needed to wait my turn. I've been told, you should have stayed at the legislature. But at the end of the day, the choice belongs to me. And at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the voters to decide who they want to serve as their next Bexar County Judge.
So with that, I mean, you put your name in the hat, and there were several people who ran for the position on the Democratic side. You forced a runoff.
Yes.
Would you say, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if that's the proper language. You forced a runoff. Now you are in the runoff about a month or so later. How many months was it ago before when that initial
So
race?
March was, I
March.
think, election day, for the first round, and now, next Tuesday's it.
So what's that, May 24th?
May 24th.
May 24th, we have a runoff. A week from today, the voters are going to go to the ballot. A low population of voters.
Very low turnout. Very low turnout.
Because the further this gets along, the more people just kind of fall off.
Well, and then we had the May 7th election, the bond election. So we had voters come out one time, and then we're asking them to come out again, a week later for early voting. It doesn't make sense. They should have been combined, but that's what happens is voters are like, I just came out. Why do I have to come out again? Mm-hmm. That's why I'm telling you why I needed to knock on doors. First of all, to tell them, we have 2 elections, and a lot of them didn't know that we even had 2 elections. They thought that my race was going to be on the May 7th ballot. And then I had to tell them the importance of why they needed to come out again. So it's voter education. And then it's explaining to them the importance of this race and what it means in terms of this is leadership for the county now that Nelson Wolff is leaving. So it's been really important for me to knock on those doors and have that one-on-one discussion with them. And then they say, oh, now I understand. Okay, I'll be there, for election day.
Well, you seem to have a very personal touch.
It came with time. So this, I remember when I first started running for office, I was so shy. I think it's just come with time that you get comfortable talking to people. Yeah.
I'm just like you.
Yeah.
You turn the cameras on, I'm Mr. Show. I'm the voice of the culture. Cameras go off, don't talk to me. Mm-hmm. I'm going home.
I'm going to go watch Netflix.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, on my way to the mailbox from my house, I don't want to be looked at, So let's talk about it. I mean, you're in a competitive race.
Yes.
The election comes down to next week. You're running off against Judge Peter Sakai.
Yes.
I don't know much about him. What can you tell me about him?
Peter Sakai, I've known him for many years. I first met him when he was the presiding judge of the children's courts, which handles all the child protective services cases, the parental terminations. He's been on the bench for a very long time, and then now, I was there when he got elected, left the children's courts, and then became judge of one of the civil district courts. He's been in the community for a very long time, has served in public service for 26 years. And so I've known him, very well. Never could have predicted that he and I would ever be running against each other for
Well,
an
it's got to be
office,
like that, though. It's got to be like that. I mean.
Yeah, but I love the fact that the voters are going to have the ability to choose between 2 candidates, good candidates with different backgrounds.
Are you all amicable? Do y'all talk? I mean,
Yeah.
are y'all friendly right now?
We are. Look, politics is a contact sport,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's winners and losers, and for me, I know the nature of campaigning for a race like this. As a state rep. My pledge is to run on the issues that matter most to the voters, and also you run on your records, right? What are your records, good or bad? I mean, to me, that's fair game as long as it's factual, right? And sometimes we don't like things pulled out into the light, but if it's factual, this is a race, and it's, one that, of course, both of us want to win.
This is interesting to me because you talked about Game of Thrones. You talked about being a contact sport.
Yeah.
I mean, what sort of contact is happening? Is there contact happening right now? I mean, we talked about it being a competitive race. We both like to compete, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on? Like, what is the real deal on the ground right now? What are people saying? What is happening right now? I mean, is there anything that's out of bounds that's happening?
In terms of out of bounds, I think in any race, you have signs being stolen, taken down. You have like surrogates of that campaign, getting on Facebook and putting lies out there. You have, there's just, people getting involved, people that you were friends with that have to hide behind a keyboard and malign who you are on social media. But it is what it is. And so this is what happens in politics. Unfortunately, this is a small community. We all know each other. People take a side. I mean, they have to. And at the end of the day, it just, there's going to be a winner and a loser. But I think right now we're in the middle of getting mail out to voters, telling them, hey, I'm the better candidate, putting out there our records, and basically letting the voters decide who they're going to want to represent them.
Because you're in this to win it.
Yeah.
you're not out there just to have really nice campaign signs all around the city, which you do.
Right. Thank you.
Right? You're in this to win it, right?
Right.
So for those folks that are watching right now that have a vote, let's just tell them why they should vote for you.
Sure. So, the next Bexar County Judge, this is a critical position. Nelson Wolf has been there for over 20 years, and now he's stepping down. And so we are going to be in need of bold and measured leadership. We're going to need someone who's experienced that can continue the work. While I was at the state legislature, my work ethic was front and center. And because of my hard work ethic and the fact that I could produce, I was appointed to serve on key committees that a lot of members wanted to serve on, very competitive committees. I served on the budget. I was responsible for a $200 billion budget for the state of Texas. I was the vice chair of the ARPA funding. I served on cybersecurity, transportation, infrastructure, land and resource management, urban planning. Many of the issues that I dealt with, as a state legislator are going to be very similar to what comes before Commissioner's Court. I talked about the fact that I can work across party lines to get things done, and that's what I can do. You've got to know how to work with people. So this is not a position where you learn as you go. You've got to have that knowledge is important. You've got to have bold leadership, but you've got to be measured, and you've got to produce. And so that's why I feel that I'm the best quality candidate for this position.
Interesting. And so I feel like you're very firm and you're fair, but you want to compromise as well. And so, I think that's necessary. I don't know much about this position, but what does the Bexar County Judge even do?
Sure. So here's the misconception. There's people out there that think it's a judicial position, like the black robe and the gavel. I don't know why the title is Bexar County Judge, because it's misleading, right? But at the end of the day, you really are like the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the county. Mm-hmm. Pretty much, you're like a mayor of the county. So the Bexar County Judge is responsible for make sure that the court works, that that agendas are set, that budgets are balanced, that we set a tax rate. There's infrastructure needs we've got to figure out, flood control, making sure the courts are funded. The jail is a real big responsibility. Working with independently elected officials like Sheriff Salazar, our district attorney. The different commissioners are independently elected, so the Bexar County Judge is not their boss, can't boss them around and tell them what to do, right? So it's having to work with different relationships, understanding that we've got to keep county government running. We got to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. We got to make sure we meet the needs of the people. One of the big things is this property tax issue when people got their appraisals in the mail, figuring out some property tax, relief that's meaningful. Community health and safety, transportation, quality of life, affordability. But we have tons of people moving in now that, we have a great community. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are moving in from different states like California, but you're seeing this explosion of growth, especially out on the outskirts like Bernie. You got a lot of people moving in, so you've got to figure out how you plan that growth. How do people get those services? Things like water and internet and trash service. So it's really you're planning the growth of Bexar County and then how you get the services to the people and how you balance budgets and how bills get paid, and then setting tax rates.
So it's all the behind the scenes stuff that most people just don't have the wherewithal, right. Don't really, out of sight, out of mind, I guess, right? People are trying to go to work and pay their bills and get their vehicle serviced and feed the kids and just get along. Right. I find like that's the majority of people, living in a post-COVID environment, and I know that we're not out of the woods with COVID just yet, but, people are trying to bounce back,
Yeah, I think one of the things that people understood, because of the pandemic, the county's responsible for emergency management. So if another pandemic, if we have a major flood or hurricane, we're responsible for how we manage emergency services to the community. And that's when people say, I didn't know that that's what the county did. We saw Nelson Wolf and the mayor on TV every day. Mm-hmm. They were really leading the city through the crisis of the pandemic. Abbott, was always wanting to do away with masks, or make things a lot difficult, and not thinking about public health. And they were at the forefront fighting back, saying, hey, we're going to take care of this community, and we're going to continue following guidelines, safety guidelines and health guidelines for our community. They had to provide that leadership. So
okay. Well, shout out to all of our live viewers watching along with us. We appreciate you. We've been on the air for 41 minutes, and we have a comment from, let's see, Aaron Perez. Aaron Perez says, thank you for your leadership, service, and sacrifice. What a nice comment.
Oh, Aaron, good to hear from you.
Yes, thank you so much for watching along. I've got another question for you, Ina, and it's, what's in store for Bexar County should you win?
Well, a lot. It's going to be a new era on the court. It's going to be a young court. We're going to look at transparency. What I'm hoping to bring is what we talked about. People are busy living their lives. They don't know what budgetary decisions are being made. A lot of decisions have been made outside of the public, right? Without public input. I want to bring Commissioner's Court to the people. And what does that mean? Does that mean we travel through the counties, right? Because we've got 26 suburban areas. Do we go and have meetings out there? Do we allow people to come testify before us, giving them that opportunity to tell us their input, where they think money should go, what should be funded, what should not be funded? I think that's important. So it's going to be a lot of more accountability, and it's going to be actually having leadership where we look at, providing health services. We've got, again, we're a big county, and there's areas that don't have access to quality health care. We've got to look at those health deserts. We've got to look at fixing our digital divide. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I think it's now setting new priorities and making sure that the public is part of that discussion.
Yeah. So I'm glad you talked about health. I'm a huge health and wellness advocate. I'm always talking about health. I'm always advising people on health. Yep. I'm someone who takes health very seriously. During the pandemic, we saw a breakdown of all of our health: physical health, spiritual health, mental health. And, I work with many of men that are struggling mentally. They may not come out and say, hey, sign me up for mental health counseling. But what they will say is, hey, I need to sign up for a gym because I'm going through some things. Let me go to the gym, throw some weights around, feel better about myself, have a rush of endorphins, like what I see in the mirror, and use that as a form of therapy. What I've seen on your website, a plank on mental health. What are your thoughts on mental health?
Well, mental health that's really, really important to me. I think historically that mental health was never funded the way it should have been, historically underfunded. And I think the fact that historically too, where to me it seemed that people didn't want to deal with mental health. It was a stigma to talk about it. I think even culturally, as a Latina, I think the Latino community, we don't talk about mental health problems. That's something that you keep behind closed doors. And I think all of that has just led to just a population and explosion of people that never dealt with mental health issues. And so, I worked on David's Law. That was my first big bill at the state legislature that dealt with cyberbullying in our schools. And what I'm hoping to address is, number one, access. We need to fully fund mental health services. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough facilities. We don't have enough beds. How do we provide the mental health services that are needed for people? It could be not just inpatient, outpatient as well. A lot of our jail full of people, not necessarily, but a lot of them full because they have mental health problems. Yeah. And that became a place to store people with mental health issues, and that shouldn't be that way, right? And so it's going to be an overhaul. It's going to be looking at restorative justice, and it's going to be a new day. But that has to be really a priority, fully funded resources that are put towards that. Especially the pandemic, it messed with people, but it messed with kids too. And so we have mental health issues in the state, and even the state doesn't fully fund like it should.
Yeah, we have mental health crises everywhere.
Right.
One of the things I will communicate to whomever may be watching, if you know someone that is affected by mental illness, first of all, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like it would be something similar to having a physical ailment. If I were to break my arm, I would have to go through a process of healing, of mending that wound, and it is the same thing mentally.
Right.
We have to find resources, unfortunate as it may be that we don't have a lot of them, but there are nonprofit agencies, there are community organizations, there are some, aides around the areas, wherever you may be at, that can get you help in some form or fashion. Healthy aides.
And
Because
I think there's a stigma too that people don't want to ask for help.
Absolutely.
They're afraid of people knowing.
Absolutely.
Right?
I work with a gentleman who told me the other day that he was depressed. I said, look, go home. We're going to take care of it today. Don't worry about it. And these are things that are very real and that affect everyone, no matter, how much money you have in your bank account, no matter what side of town you live on. And so, one of the things that we try to talk about at this table is health, mental health, to normalize the conversations around mental health.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with anyone should they have something happening or going through their lives. It's something that we can talk about, something that we could say, hey, it's okay.
Yeah, Maximo, I probably about 2 years ago, this is like, it is a real thing, because I remember driving back from the airport. I was coming back from Corpus Christi after a hearing, and as I was driving, I had witnessed a gentleman jump off I-10-410 interchange and commit suicide. And it is very real. There are people in crisis that feel that maybe they just don't have a place to turn. But that happened, and I saw that no one really wrote about it in the media. And can you imagine that happens a lot here?
I do see about that on the news.
And it's suicide rates. It is a crisis that we need to start dealing with. And it's properly funding, giving those services, getting people to and from appointments, and just letting them know it's okay. It's okay to ask for help.
Talking about, the normalization of serious crises in our country. We just had a shooting in Buffalo amongst what seemed to be racially motivated. You're from El Paso,
yes,
where, pretty much everybody inside the Latino community already knows what I'm talking about, where a gunman traveled hundreds and thousands of miles. I don't know exactly, maybe it was hundreds of miles, maybe not thousands, to El Paso to target people that look like us, people that look like our mothers at a Walmart where this person knew they would be. We talk about guns, the access to guns in Texas. We talk about mental health crises where someone could inflict that much damage just like that.
Right. And that we have, it's a free for all. You got, permitless carry. It's access to guns. We're in the state of Texas, and that's been what I feel is, I think there's so many people that do want reasonable, measures in place.
Yeah.
I think we all agree there should be, background checks, and there should be instances where if someone's having a mental crisis, that they should be, law enforcement authorities should be able to go in and just take those firearms in the event to prevent something from happening. But we come from leadership in the state that just basically says Second Amendment rights, don't touch my guns. But this is a discussion we got to have, because I'm tired of turning on the TV every day and there's shootings everywhere, every day, especially here in our own backyards.
It's happening a lot in Texas.
Yeah.
It happens everywhere, I think. I'm not going to say one state is worse than others, but there's some issues in Texas. Listen, every state has some issues.
Sure.
I'm from Michigan, actually, so I know a little bit about Notre Dame.
Where in Michigan?
Lansing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a Spartan fan, so everybody who's watching this from East Lansing, hey, go jump in a lake. But listen, by the way, you went to Notre Dame. Do you know Dr. Luis Fraga?
The name sounds familiar.
He's like the director. He was the director of the Latino studies.
Okay.
Something like that.
Gosh.
But I haven't seen him in a while. Real good guy.
Okay. It's been a long time. I went there, graduated in 97, so it's been a while.
He probably was there around that time. Luis Fraga.
Okay.
Real good guy. So we got a comment coming in. We got Anne Marie Schrader. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ina, many people in Bexar County don't know what the commissioner's court or the county judge do. What will you do as a county judge to improve transparency and give the people a voice in their county government? And thank you for your work on David's Law.
Well, I appreciate the question. And again, that's where it's really necessary that we take the commissioner's court to the people. It's about actually getting into the community and holding a lot of our sessions out in the community. It's about education. It's about getting people involved, wanting to get involved. But you've got to take that education to the people. If it's knocking on those doors, if it's doing the neighborhood association meetings, whatever capacity, wherever there's a forum, to go in there and explain to them what the county government does and how they're important to county government and how they invest in county government, that's what I want to do. But there's also, we also have a number of boards and commissions that we appoint people from the community to, and I'm hoping that I want to look at those different boards and commissions and see what's relevant, what can we create, what doesn't work anymore, and actually have people from the community appointed to those positions to give their talent. So when they invest in into those boards and commissions and in the issues that matter most, they become invested, and then they want to participate. And I think it shows that then government is welcoming them. It's they're welcoming their ideas. It's welcoming their concerns. So those are just some ideas that I have.
Yeah, and what you're talking about in terms of caring about your community. I mean, we should care.
Yes.
Not everyone does, unfortunately, but that's why we get up out of bed every day. That's why we seek to do the work. The work is not easy, but again, encouraging people to care. An idea of when you hurt, I hurt, and I should look out for my neighbor, and my neighbor should look out for me and our kids and our children, and us be an interwoven community. I think part of the area that we all struggle with as Americans, as people that share neighborhoods and community spaces, is we fail to recognize how all of our lives are intertwined.
Right.
That the mechanic that works on my car, the person who checks me out at the HEB, I mean, we're all regular, everyday people, and we're all helping each other out. We're all doing business with each other. We all should do right by each other. And unfortunately, it's not always that way.
It's not always that way. And I think, we've talked about how the city, is just segregated, right? In terms
that
of
too.
How it was planned and it was segregated. And you see just the inequities historically in terms of housing that was provided to certain parts of town, and the lack of health care. You see it, and it's still here to this day. That's generational poverty, that's inequities, and that is why we're never going to fix the problem unless we all get involved and start lifting people out of that. And we all have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility to do that. We do.
Yeah, that's what I would do if I was elected. I'd say, hey, you were chirping at me on the campaign trail because you wanted to get involved in education. Well, I've got this board here. Why don't you get involved here?
Right, I want you.
Yeah.
Your ideas, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm excited for you. This is big business. It's big news. I wish you all of the luck. You seem to be about it, right? I think us as people of color, people raised here, at the border, people that, are black and brown, we go off vibes, we go off aura, we go off the feelings we get with people when they walk in the room, much more than we do off their words. Yeah. You seem to be about it. You seem to be invested, like you're coming for this.
I am. This is my calling. This is, I am in a good position where I can do this work. I don't, and so because I've been given the talents to do it, the education to do it, and the will, this is what I want to do. And so when I want something, I fight hard for it. And again, like I've mentioned, Maximo, if it doesn't work out, I'm still going to be very involved in the community in a different capacity because I care about it. And so there's always opportunities, but I have the eye on the prize, and I'm going to work hard. And as many people tell me I don't deserve it or I can't do it, I'm going to freaking fight hard. They really light the fire in me to get it done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, folks, we're getting towards the end of our show. And to your surprise delight, we have a new segment, the 2-minute tip drill. We're going to give you the 2-minute tip drill brought to you by More Than Magic, an experimental vodcast exploring Black girl magic and beyond with Kirsten Thompson. Check it out right here at VodPod Media. And we're going to get into some quick lightning round questions for Ina. And I just want you to go ahead and shoot whatever you got back to me. You can be as deep and reflective as you want. Nice.
Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Water.
You might be or have earning your vacation here in a couple weeks. So good. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
Nice. Favorite breakfast taco?
Ooh, bean and chorizo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Legends of the Fall.
Okay. Spice level on your wings?
Oh, like 10. 10 out of 10, 10.
the spiciest of all.
I want to sweat.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's a glutton for heat in this weather, folks. There you have it. Biggest pet peeves?
Oh, people who drive slow on the fast lane. That drives me crazy.
Listen, it's getting there too with all this traffic in here. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
How do you take it?
Cream.
Really? Okay. What makes someone a good person?
What makes someone a good person? They just care. They have a heart.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm the Tin Man. I don't have a heart. One thing still on your bucket list.
On my bucket list, I want to go to Venice. That's on my bucket list. I want to get on a gondola.
Okay. Hidden talent.
Hidden talent. Oh my goodness. That's a hard one. Hidden talent? I don't know. I don't think I can sing. People think I can. I would say probably singing.
Maybe singing. Okay. So is that one thing someone wouldn't guess about you, or do you have something else?
Something else. I told you I'm an introvert.
That's okay. Favorite music to get you pumped up?
Oh, Tupac.
Tupacalypse. Come on now
Tupac.
with it. Tupac. We got a hip hop audience that watches us. We're gonna say shout out to all the Tupac lovers, all the Biggie lovers can get next week. You have a sit down with any one person in history over dinner. Who is it?
Ooh, sit down with anyone over history. Who would it be? Oh my gosh, John Lewis.
John Lewis.
John Lewis.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a soldier right there.
I wish I had gotten to meet him before he passed away. Incredible man, incredible story.
Okay. What do you think is beyond this life?
Heaven.
How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as someone who fought for good.
Okay.
Fought for good.
And closing words, any shout outs, you can talk to me, you can talk to the cameras. We're going to let you close out the show. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. We'll let you get the closing words and wish you luck.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to visit with you and visit with the viewers today. You know, I think sometimes people don't get into politics because they feel that politicians aren't real. We're human like you. We care about this community, and I really hope, you know, the voter turnout is going to be really low in this race, but you really should care about who's leading your community and what are their intentions and what are their platforms and what do they want to do on behalf of making this community a better place. And I hope that you'll take the opportunity to look into me. I have a website, vote4ina.org, and it really goes through my background and my vision for Bexar County. And I really urge you to vote for me and know that I would be honored to serve as your next Bexar County Judge.
There it is, folks, right here. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Folks, we wish you a beautiful rest of your evening. Thank you so much for spending it with us. Get back, reshare this, talk about it, retweet it, tell your brother to share it, tell everyone to get a look. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for this Tuesday night, and we'll see you next week. Ta-da!
Thank you.
We'll wait till the mics are off.